Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I want to thank you all for being here today. My name is Kate Conway Turner, and I'm the president here at Buffalo State College, and we are very happy to have you here. Before we start, I'd like to acknowledge a few special guests who are with us here in the audience. We have members of the Buffalo State College Council. Would you please stand wherever you are? We have members of the Erie County, Niagara County Legislature. Please stand if anyone's standing. We have City of Niagara Falls Mayor Deister. We have City of Lackawanna Mayor Szymanski. We have Town of West Seneca Supervisor Sheila Megan. We have Buffalo Bills Hall of Fame running back Terman Thomas and his wife Patty. And we have Paul Brown, president of Western New York Building Trades. Thank you all for coming this morning, and I know we have many other special guests in the room, and of course you're all special guests. I would particularly like to thank Governor Cuomo for bringing his 2015 Opportunity Agenda to us at the college today. There is no question that Buffalo is undergoing a fundamental revitalization. Buffalo State has been a proud partner with the public and private sectors as Western New York continues its renaissance, during which we've seen sharp increases in new investment and new jobs in the region. Buffalo State plays a role in this growth. As the largest comprehensive college in the State University of New York, we have a unique opportunity to participate and to continue to support and boost the region's economy. Buffalo State is proud to be a part of Startup New York program, and we look forward to expanding our research capacity as well as attracting new businesses, more investment, and additional jobs for Western New York as our involvement in the program continues and deepens. The state's focus on linking higher education to new jobs and economic growth has been successful in building Western New York into a stronger magnet for innovation and opportunity. And we look forward to keeping it going here at Buffalo State. Consistent with the growth within Western New York, this year at Buffalo State, we celebrate innovation. On behalf of the Buffalo State faculty, staff, students, administrators, welcome, and we look forward to hearing from the governor this morning. It is now my pleasure to introduce Erie County Executive Mark Poloncar.
Thank you, President Conway Turner. I know you haven't been here that long, so it's going to take some time to get used to the Polish names. They're not that easy, so I'll cut you some slack on that one. I've heard it all my life, so there's no iteration I haven't heard. But I am pleased to be here at Buffalo State. This is my neighborhood. I live in the Museum District, and this is one of the great additions to the entire region that we've had, which is the Birchfield Penny Arts Center. And I want to congratulate you, first of all, once again on your installation this past year and the wonderful things that are happening at Buffalo State. We were talking previously beforehand about not only the great things that are happening here on the main campus, but what's being done, especially on the the west side of the campus, all the development that's going on there. I'm a UB grad, but I think we all know we need to have a strong public university system, public colleges for our students to go to, and that's why I'm really pleased to be here today at one of the truly great university colleges in our community. Now, when I saw the governor come in, I heard he didn't get my executive order that all elected officials that show up in Erie County have to have facial hair now. But the mayor, of course, has had it for years. But I do appreciate having the governor here once again in our city, because this truly is a different time for our community. A time that this basically 4 years ago, we were still talking about what is the future of Buffalo. And now Buffalo is being used as an example for everything else that's happening in upstate New York. And I know you're going to hear a lot more about it from our governor today, but what he has done here in Buffalo, he's going to try to replicate all across New York State, and it can be done. Because it wasn't that long ago when people talked about Buffalo and Erie County and Western New York, they were talking about the past. Think about it. People always talked about the good old days in Buffalo in the 50s and 60s. People don't talk about the good old days in Buffalo being the 50s and 60s anymore. People talk about the good old days in Buffalo being now. Think about that. When we're 20 years from now, 20 years from now, when we look back on this time, we're really going to look at this as the golden age of our community. This is not the community that it was at the beginning of the 20th century, but it's a beautiful community and one that we're proud of, and the message that's going out across the entire world. And we have to thank our governor for helping that, because he stood up at a time when he issued his budget in 2012 and talked about the Buffalo Billion. People said it's not going to make a difference, but he knew it could. And that's why we are here today celebrating a rebirth in our community, and what I know will continue across New York State as this opportunity agenda is actually put forth. I had the pleasure to hear it announced when he talked about it in Albany at the State of the State, and I can say this: it is an agenda that can work for the people of New York State. It is an agenda that will work for the people of Western New York. It is one that I know we're all proud of, and I know that's one that is going to create a better Empire State for all of us. We talk about the state motto being Excelsior, ever upward, but for too long it wasn't. It was the opposite. You can't say that anymore, and one of the reasons, and the prime reason in my eyes, is because of our governor and what he's done to turn this community, this state around. And that's something we all should be proud for. And one of the reasons that we're here in Buffalo is also because of the great things that are happening in our community, being led by our mayor, my partner, part of the dynamic duo, as the governor's called us before, someone I know is doing great things, and someone I'm proud to call my mayor, Mayor Byron Brown. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Thank you, County Executive Poloncarz, and thank you for the great work that you do each and every day for this community, and thank you for your great partnership in government. Let's give our County Executive another big round of applause. And like the County Executive, I am very pleased to be here at Buffalo State College, my alma mater, a place that some of the best memories of my life were made. I want to just recognize the wonderful new president, President Catherine Conway Turner, for the great job she is already doing in leading this wonderful institution. Let's give her another round of applause. And you know, we have so many things to thank Governor Cuomo for. In the past, governors didn't like to come to Buffalo when it was snowing. But Governor Cuomo, he comes here all times of the year. Governor Cuomo knows Buffalo, and he knows that this community is not stopped by a little snow, that we keep going, we keep getting things done, and we also have fun in the snow. The governor also, when worse comes to worse, he has rolled up his sleeves, hunkered down with us, and helped to move the snow. Governor, we are so pleased to welcome you back and to thank you for your great commitment to this community. And as you heard County Executive Poloncarz say, today the governor brings his agenda for the coming year to Buffalo. And it is a bold agenda, it is a strong agenda that can continue and will continue the transformation that we're seeing across the state and the tremendous transformation that we're seeing here in Buffalo and Western New York. While Buffalo's economic recovery has been noticed and celebrated as we bring new industries and create new jobs, we must also ensure our education system is preparing our students and giving our children access to quality learning. Governor Cuomo has long been an advocate for our state's children. He famously said that every single person in our public schools has a lobbyist in Albany, except for the students. Putting students first is one of the most critical social and economic issues of our time. At its core, a better education leads to more opportunity. 2 weeks ago, in his State of the State address, the governor unveiled a series of proposals that would change the state's approach to education, putting more emphasis on the needs of the students and making sure that our schools are working for them. We need that kind of leadership because our schools must do a better job at serving our students. We cannot and must not fail our children and cannot ignore the problems in our education system any longer. On behalf of the City of Buffalo, Governor, it is an honor to welcome you back. We look forward to hearing your presentation. And ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the Governor of the great state of New York, Governor Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. 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 Have a seat. Thank you all very much for the kind introduction, the kind words. First, Madam President, welcome. Congratulations. This is a fantastic institution. It's my pleasure to be back, and everyone is excited about your entrance and your leadership. Let's give the President a round of applause. To Thurman Thomas and Patty, thank you very much for being here. Thank you for all you do for Buffalo. Thank you. You know, success brings challenges also. What's happening now, because Buffalo has had such success, and everybody knows about the success, they're trying to get a little piece of it, you see. And I'm one of them. So you see, they're now pilfering from Buffalo. So Howard Zemsky, who was just at one time the head of the REDC here in Buffalo, now he's going to do it for the entire state, because we're going to take him from the Buffalo laboratory with that great formula, and he's going to be head of ESD. Give him a round of applause. I stole Rich Toby from Grizzly Polling Cars. He didn't hold it against me. And to your mayor and your county executive, they're going to go down in the history books as the leaders who turned around Buffalo, Erie, and Western New York. You're going to read about them years from now, because, as the county executive said, these are the good days. It's not about yesterday anymore. It's about today. And it's about tomorrow. And it's about what's happening in Buffalo that hasn't happened in decades. And it's about public officials who are working together seamlessly in a way I've never seen it done before. And this has been an economic development turnaround for the books. Mayor Paul Deister also has been part of that. And it wouldn't happen without them. Let's give them a round of applause. And they are also, not only are they economic development geniuses, but they are the kind of leaders you want to be with at a time of crisis. You know, I've been around long enough in this job that people are one way when everything is nice and the sun is shining and we're sitting here and there's no pressure. But you really get to see what people are made of when the pressure is on and when they have a real challenge and they have to really produce. And 7 feet of snow is one of those things that really puts the pressure on people, you know. Everybody's unhappy, and people are nervous, and people are anxious, and the leader has to lead. And I have been with the mayor and the county executive in that situation, and I'm telling you, those are the people who I would want to be in a foxhole with or in a snowbank with, depending on. They have really been extraordinary and stepped up and done great, great work. I still question your terminology and how you talk about these things. The lake effect snow. It sounds so pleasant, doesn't it? Lake effect. Oh, we have lake effect snow. You know, you had a monsoon. You had a satanic dumping of snow upon a county. There was nothing sweet and romantic about it. It was really a monster. That's what it was. And I'm amazed at how well we bounced back and how quickly we bounced back, and it wouldn't have happened without Mayor Brown and County Executive Poland Cars. Let's give them a round of applause. Last time I was here was my inauguration day, January 1st. And that morning, I had talked to my father about coming with me to Inauguration Day. And we had been talking about it for a few days, and it was a different kind of inauguration because I was doing 2. I was doing one in New York City and one in Buffalo. And that had never been done before. And my father loved the idea, and he originally was going to come and he was going to hold the Bible, and we'd been talking about that for a number of days. And that morning I stopped, the morning of the inaugural, I went by his apartment first, and I said, you know, maybe you want to come, Pop, because the question was how strong he was going to be. And he said, no, he said, I can't make it, but I'll be here for you, he said to me. And we did New York City, we were talking about the New York City inaugural, and he said, you're going to Buffalo. That's great. They're doing great. Tell them, keep going, keep going. That was his last words. He passed away while I was here, so I want to relay the message. Keep going, keep going. Now, it's been a great 4 years. We had a plan, we followed the plan, and to be successful, I really believe that you need to set out a goal and have a plan to get there. And that's what this opportunity agenda is all about. The state normally does a state of the state, and then we do a budget message. We've combined both in really a coordinated plan and an agenda, and now the challenge is to get everybody on the same page and buying into the same plan and seeing the same goal and moving forward. And that's what our opportunity agenda is all about, because the state is doing great and the momentum is with us, but now we have to keep it going. And when you look back at the past 4 years, it is night and day from where we were to where we are today. We went from 8.9% unemployment to 5.8%. We had low credit ratings. We now have the highest credit ratings in 40 years. Upstate was in a period of decay. Upstate now is rebuilding all across the board. Taxes and spending were going up. Now taxes and spending are cut to the lowest rate in over 50 years, believe it or not. Property taxes were going up at about 6% a year. Property taxes are now capped at 2% and then frozen. It has been historic progress. And it's made a real difference in people's lives, and you can feel it. And the state is now talking about a future. It's talking about opportunity again. And our challenge this year is to reach even higher. And that's what we call the opportunity agenda. And we keep it simple, but we want to deal with the main issues, which are economics, education, public safety, and ethics reform. On economics, the engine that pulls the train is business. If we're bringing businesses back, that means there's opportunity, that means there's jobs, that means there's revenue for the city and revenue for the county. It's all about getting jobs and business to come back to New York. And we've been doing that. And to continue doing that, first we have to remember the lessons that brought us this success in the first place. And I believe one of the reasons you're seeing the turnaround is because we have defeated the old reputation of the high-tax state and the high-cost state, because we are now actually cutting taxes, and we have been. To cut taxes, you have to maintain your fiscal discipline, and we have. This is unbelievable to me. New York State, over the past 50 years, the state spent more money than the people in the state were earning. Now, you would think that's mathematically impossible, but it's not. We actually did it. The taxes were going up at a higher rate than the income was going up for 50 years, which meant you were, by definition, taking a greater and greater piece proportionately from the taxpayer's pocket, because we were spending more than people were making. We totally reversed that. 50 years, we spend on average 6.8% every year. We brought that down to now 1.3% every year, from 6.8 to 1.3. Because we're spending less state money, that means that we can tax less, and we've made historic progress. The lowest middle class tax rate since 1953. Middle class is up to $300,000, so it's a very big middle class. Lowest rate since 1953, lowest corporate rate since 1968, lowest manufacturer's rate since 1917. So by controlling spending, we can continue to reduce taxes, which is what we want to do. This year, we want to cut small business taxes. Why? Because small businesses are the new economic engine. That's where the jobs are coming from, are the small businesses. And we want to encourage them in the state, and we want to encourage locating them in the state. Right now, the small business tax rate is 6.5%. We want to take it from 6.5 down to 2.5, which would be the lowest rate in 100 years, and really encourage. Next, we also want to cut property taxes this year, because property taxes are the tax that is most oppressive to every New Yorker. It is among the highest property taxes in the United States of America. That's what we have here in New York. The highest taxes in the country. And it's literally forcing people out of their homes. That's what we have to change, and we've been changing. 2011, we capped property taxes. Last year, we froze them. This year, we want to actually cut property taxes. We want to cut them $1.7 billion, with the savings going directly to the homeowners. And that would mean 1.3 million homeowners will save an average of nearly $1,000 per year, which is real money and real savings. We also want to extend tax relief to renters, 1 million renters across the state. To keep the economy growing, we have to keep building infrastructure. And the infrastructure of today is broadband. The way Eisenhower built the highway grid across the country, because Eisenhower's point was you need the grid to move commerce. The grid of today is broadband. And broadband in New York State is very disparate. We have 500,000 homes and 4,000 businesses that have no access. And you know where those houses and businesses are? They're in upstate New York, and they're in poorer communities in downstate New York. So the places that really need it most have it least. We want to spend $500 million of state money. We'll partner with internet companies with another $500 million. That'll be $1 billion to expand broadband, high speed, to every corner of the state by 2018. We have focused on upstate New York like nobody's business over the past 4 years, and we've changed the dynamic of upstate New York. What was happening in upstate New York is we were losing jobs, we were losing economic power. You then lose people. When you lose people, you lose political power, which means the government wasn't paying attention, and now you have a vicious negative cycle. And that's where we were. State government was blind to the needs of upstate New York, I'm ashamed to say. We have reversed that, and we brought economic prosperity all across the state. Unemployment is down all across the state, and unemployment is coming down in upstate New York relatively the same way it's coming down in downstate New York. So it is really one New York economically now, and upstate is doing just as well as downstate, and that's a much different economic trajectory. The regional economic development councils are doing great. They're doing great all across the state. The one in Western New York is doing great with Howard Zemsky there, smiling with Satish Tripathi. They're smiling not because they won, but because they're standing one person away from Maria Bartiromo. But that's also a good reason to smile. Plus the $1 billion. We embarked on an ambitious enterprise to turn around Western New York, and we did. More importantly, you did. And we've turned the tide fundamentally, and you feel us now on a different tide with the wind at our back, sailing towards a new Buffalo. Part of that economic recovery has to remember that the best economic recovery is an economic recovery that lifts everyone, not just some. And there are still people who are at the bottom of the economic food chain, and we want to raise them also. We raised the minimum wage once. We want to raise the minimum wage again because people still are seeing a growing income gap. And the concept of the minimum wage, is that it is a wage that is significant enough that you can pay for housing, you can pay for rent, and you can pay for food, and you don't live in poverty. That's the point of minimum wage. If you're working full-time, you should not be in poverty. And we need to raise the minimum wage to do that, and we want to raise it to $10.50, which we believe one of the great challenges facing Buffalo, facing the state, is education reform. We've been talking about it for a long time, but we want to actually do something about it now. We need dramatic reform, and we want to do it all across the board by recruiting the best teachers, closing failing schools, and investing in early education. To recruit the best teachers, we want to offer to pay SUNY or CUNY tuition for top graduates who are willing to teach in New York for 5 years. If you give us 5 years, we'll pay your college tuition at SUNY or CUNY. It's for our children. It's worth it. For existing teachers, we need real teacher evaluations. Once we evaluate the teacher, we want to incentivize high-performing teachers. We want to help the teachers who are struggling. And we want to remove the bad teachers from the classroom. Now, I'm taking all sorts of grief for this proposal. I love and respect teachers. I am not against teachers. My mother was a 2nd and 4th grade teacher. She loves it. She now does mentoring. I totally respect the occupation, and I totally respect the people who do it. But the current teacher evaluation system we have is just not accurate. We have 38% of our high school students are college ready. 98% of the high school teachers are rated effective. How can you have a 98% teacher effective rate if you have 38% of the students who are actually ready to go to school. 3rd to 8th graders, proficiency in English are 30%. Only 30% are at grade level. But 99% of the teachers are rated effective. It cannot be. 3rd to 8th graders in math, 35%, 98% of the math teachers are effective. If the students are failing, the teacher isn't winning. It can't be. It's clear we need a real accurate teacher evaluation system. Off that evaluation system, we want to incentivize higher performance. The teachers who are working harder, the teachers who are studying more, give them an incentive with a bonus. I believe in that. If you're working harder than everyone else, let's reward people for the good work they do, and we'll offer a $20,000 bonus to the highest performing teachers in the state who are rated highly effective, and let them mentor the other teachers to give them the lessons that have been working for them. For teachers who need support, who are in the middle, we'll invest in support for them in what we call a teacher improvement plan. We'll get them counseling, we'll get them help, we'll get them assistance so that they can improve. And for chronically ineffective teachers who are chronically failing, even after we try to help them, after we invest with a teacher improvement plan, if it's not working for the students in the classroom, then we should get that teacher out of the classroom. Right now, to get a teacher out of a classroom is so long and so complicated a process that the school districts don't even bother trying anymore because it's so expensive and takes so long. We just have to remember that the point of the education system was about the students. That's what the mayor was talking about when I said everybody is a lobbyist in Albany, except the students. The reason we pay for education is not to build buildings and not to pay bus companies and not to hire teachers. The purpose of education is to educate students. And let's remember that. Second, we must fix failing schools. We know what schools are failing. We know what schools have been failing for a long, long time. Failing schools are schools where less than half the students wind up graduating, when you have a state average of over 76%. Worse, more than 9 out of 10 students in failing schools are minority students and are poor students in poorer communities. There are 178 failing schools in New York. 77 have been failing for more than a decade. A decade, which means every year it's the same situation. We have a failing school. Yes, we should do something about it. What are we going to do? I don't know, it's too complicated. Let's do nothing. 10 years. In those 10 years, 250,000 students went to failing schools. 250,000 students went to schools that we knew were failing and did nothing about. Just think of the consequences of that. And at one point, it has to end. We want to make a very simple law. When a school fails for 3 years, a nonprofit, another school district, or a turnaround expert must come in and take over the school because enough is enough. We'll invest in the school, we'll put more money into the school with wraparound services, but we're going to need a new management plan for that school. Charter schools, I believe, provide a valuable option for many of our students. We propose giving students in failing schools a preference to go to the charter schools. We want to make sure the charter schools equally accept children and have what we call an anti-creaming law to make sure the charter schools aren't taking just the best students, but a representative selection of students and that we'll have in this budget also. Because we believe all students deserve a fair shot, we propose both an education tax credit, which would go to parents who send their children to parochial schools, religious schools, etc., and pass the DREAM Act, which is for the children of immigrant families. Every expert will say invest in early education, that the young minds are the minds with the greatest ability to grow. We put $1.5 billion to have universal pre-K for all 4-year-olds. We want to take it to the next step now by starting early education for 3-year-olds. And we'll be one of the first states in the nation to do that. It is a bold reform agenda. I understand that. And what I've said to the legislature is this. The current budget would see education funding go up 1.7%. If the legislature passes these reforms, we'll invest in the education system 4.8%, which would be an additional $1 billion. Because if we're going to put in these places, then I will put our money where our mouth is and invest in schools and education, but I want them to do the reforms. 10 years of failing schools, 250,000 students failed. That has to stop, and I think this increase in money will help them get there. Public safety. New York State has more schools being investigated for sexual assault than any other state in the nation. There is a plague that is going on right now in this society of sexual assault against young women, particularly on college campuses. And it's been going on for years, and it's always been swept under the rug, and it hasn't really been addressed, and it's getting worse. We passed a requirement in the state university schools that is one of the first in the country that imposes an affirmative consent to sexual activity, where both people have to affirmatively say yes. And if a woman or a man believes they were sexually assaulted, the college or the university must inform them and allow them to contact law enforcement. What very often happens is there's a rape or there's a sexual assault. They go to the people on campus. The people on campus don't want this publicized. They don't want it in the newspaper. They don't want it to hurt the reputation. So they try to take care of it internally. And they try to make it go away. Rape is a crime. Rape is a crime. What's worse is the numbers of rapes are going up, and it's a very small number of people who are actually doing it. Why? Because it's a small number of people who are recidivists and doing more and more rapes because we're not stopping them the first time, because we've been sweeping it under the carpet. This law says affirmative consent to sexual activity, and if a woman or man comes and complains that they've been a victim of sexual assault, they have a right to go to the police in that town or the state police and have that investigated and prosecuted and punished as the crime it is, and stop these recidivists. Last year, we made that a law on SUNY campuses. This year, we want to make it a law to cover every campus in the state of New York, because New York should be at the forefront. And this is one of those laws where if we do it, I believe every state will follow. Because once someone does it and stands up and says this should be the law, there is no reason why you wouldn't do this. It makes all the sense in the world. Extreme weather is the new normal. I don't need to tell you that. We want to invest in an online coordinating system where the federal, state, and local governments are all online on the same cost system. We will be training all local governments again to make sure we're all on the same protocol. Here in Buffalo, it's not an issue. We have all that on-the-ground training all the time. And we want to invest $50 million in additional equipment, snow plows, et cetera, because we need it. We're also in the process of building the most sophisticated weather detection system in the country, actually, because detecting the weather is not just for comfort anymore. We make big decisions off weather detection. And when we hear that it's not going to snow, we don't send the equipment. And when we hear it is going to snow, we send a lot of equipment. We had an issue in Buffalo that I don't want to get into again because I criticized the weather report, and then I had every weatherman in the United States yell at me. But we then had a situation in New York City last week where they were expecting a lot of snow, and there was much less snow. So there are big economics and there are big decisions that we're making, and we need the best information possible, and we're going to have the most sophisticated weather detection system possible. The last point is ethics reform. Over the past 4 years, we've come a long way, and we've shown that state government can work, but we still have an issue in Albany. And the ongoing issue in Albany, as you see from headlines, is too many scandals in Albany. And I'm going to propose very simple but dramatic ethics reform that will make New York a national leader. We call it the Clean Up Albany Plan. We want the strongest campaign finance disclosure rules in the country, pension forfeiture for legislators who commit felonies, reduce legislators' per diems so that you're actually paying for the costs and they're not making money by just going to Albany on the per diem, stop using campaign funds for personal expenses, and what I call the ultimate disclosure. Legislators who have outside income, which they are allowed to have, must disclose all the outside income, where it came from, what they got paid for, and if there was any connection to state business. Because I've been asking for these reforms for 4 years. I haven't gotten them. So this year, I'm going to make it very simple. I've told the legislature I will not sign a budget that does not have these ethics reforms. I am very proud that we got 4 budgets done on time. And I'm proud of that fact. I would like to get 5 budgets done on time, but even more, I would like to have a real ethics reform package passed where we can look the people in the eye of the state of New York and say, we have the right ethical protections in place, you should trust this government. Because at one point, enough is enough. And until you really have full trust, you have not reached the full capacity of government. I believe the state government can do great things. But for it to do great things, people really have to have trust. And they don't today. And I want them to have that trust and feel that confidence. If we get this plan done, look what we will have done. We will have lowered taxes. We will have created more jobs. This will transform the education system. New York will be safer and fairer, and we'll have a government that is more trustworthy. But don't clap so fast. That's only the plan. Now we have to get it done. And change is hard. Change is always hard. Change is hard in your individual life. You know, change is hard. Married couples, you look at each other in the morning over the breakfast table, you know, and you say, we need change. Yeah. The message is really, you need to change, you know. I'm doing just fine the way I am, but you have a lot of issues. Change is hard. Change is hard personally, and change is even harder for the collective. And to change government is hard to make these changes I'm asking them to make. These education changes, they have to take on the teachers' union. Teachers' union is the strongest political force in the state of New York. Make these changes to public safety, make these changes to the tax laws. Change is hard. Make these changes on failing schools. Change is hard. And dramatic change is really hard. And this is dramatic change. And I need your help to do this. The legislators have heard me. They don't want to hear me anymore. And you know what voice is more important to the legislators than my voice? Your voice. Because at the end of the day, it's democracy, and at the end of the day, they need your vote, and they want your vote, and they want you happy with them. And that is a good thing. And I need you to say to your legislator, I know it's a tough agenda, I know it requires change, I know it's uncomfortable, I know you're going to take heat from some special interests, but remember who you represent. We have the state moving. Keep moving it forward. New York is on the move. Buffalo is really on the move. It's all about now growing the momentum and keep building on that momentum. And I believe you ain't seen nothing yet. This has only been 4 years. Think about this. Just think about this. It's been 4 years. Look at all you've done in only 4 years. If I had gone to you 4 years ago and said, I'm going to tell you where you're going to be 4 years from now, you would have said it was delusional. This was after decades and decades of decline and hopelessness. 4 years, you turned the whole ship around. I believe that we're not anywhere near the optimum. We're organized, we changed the momentum, we changed the rules of doing business, we changed the operating culture. The sky is the limit. This plan will help get us there. Thank you and God bless you.
Please join me in thanking the governor one more time for that ambitious agenda. Thank you for coming, and that concludes our program.